Love is a high-risk behavior.
All gas, no brakes. Let me just start off with a quick clearing, please. I need to get this off my chest. I am tired, you guys, and equally energized right now for this next year. I don't know how this is occurring, how I'm even here today recording with you guys. It has been a crazy last 8 days. Over this past week, I have perceived that I am much more capable than I thought was possible. And honestly, it's amazing what you can do when you move in faith like it is already done. And this is a word for some of you out here. If you move like it is finished, or at least like the finish line is right here in front of you, you would accomplish so much more. You cannot move in fear and you cannot move in doubt. Faith is finished. And that's what faith does. It makes us move like it's done. It makes it move like God has already ordered our steps, and that's what he said he would do. Do you remember that classic song, Order My Steps? Well, that's one of my songs for the year of 2025 is, Lord, please order my steps in your word. I want to make sure that I'm not doing me this year, but I'm doing him. Now, this segues beautifully into today's topic, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. Welcome to the podcast, High Risk or Heartbreak. I am your host, Christina, and I'm so glad you decided to join me today. If you are new here, I pray you find value in at least one thing I say today. And to my old faithful returning crew, you know just how much I appreciate you. Like anything we set out to do, we need a plan. And if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. To travel, you need a plan. You need to plan the flights. You need hotels, resorts, excursions, dinners, outfits. To have a baby, even if the baby is unexpected, you need a plan, hospital or birthing center, a care team, where your baby is going to stay, how will they eat, what will the next 18 years of life be like, minimum. You need plans even for your day-to-day to ensure that those errands get done. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a list person. I've got to have a list. Like, I love the endorphins. Is it endorphins? I don't think it's endorphins. Whatever it is, the hormone that releases every time I check something off my list, unbelievable. You guys should try it if you don't. Seldom, though, do we operate without some kind of plan in mind, right? As humans in this vast world of experiences, we have to make a plan. Quote me here when I say this: plans are the wranglers of your time, your money, and your peace. Now that we have left behind yet another year, I'm realizing just how fast it's actually going. And listen, my parents told me, they said this was going to happen. They said, don't rush time. It goes by fast. And you know what? I believe them. I believe them now. And it's become very apparent to me over these last 4 years or so, maybe 5, that I'm just like, wow. I'm just wondering how we arrived here so quickly. I saw a Twitter post the other day that said 2025 is the same distance from 2000 as it is from 2050. And I nearly left this earth. Because how? I was born in 1987. Anyway, where has time gone and who did what with it? I'm a budgeter. Anyone else out there? So I was working on my monthly, quarterly, and annual budget for this year, and I have a certain amount of earnings in mind that I would like to break past. I have come close over the last few years in a row, but I just have not been able to step over that line. And the same goes for my career. There are wins that I would like to see that I haven't seen yet, getting over that line. And the same goes for my relationships. So it really got me thinking about planning and how planning is more than just thinking of something and writing it. The scripture tells us that we need to make our requests known, right? It tells us to make a plan so that others can run with it. And when I look at my plans, I've been trying to obtain them from a place of just me singularly. I haven't enrolled enough people. And if you've ever worked in leadership, you would understand this rhetoric that I'm talking about of being able to enroll, of being able to enroll your team members into duties that need to be done for the whole team to be effective. To be a good leader, you have to be able to do that. And because I don't actually have a physical team with me to help manage this and some of my other endeavors, I do have an agent for acting, but that's it. Stunts is all me. Ariel is all me. This podcast is all me. Because I don't have a production team just yet, all of it does fall on my shoulders. And so when I set my forecasts or my goals for the year, I think about them in that way. And so I realized it's not just about that. I actually have to enroll other people into this. But anyway, that's a tangent. You didn't come here to talk about numbers and enrollment and budgets and in the financial sense, but I do want to press upon you that a budget can and should be used when it comes to your time and your peace. Two elements of a relationship that once used up, will not come back to you. You must budget how you are relating to the people that you say you love, to the ones that you desire to love, and to the ones that say they love you. It seems counterintuitive to do this because who plans for the fact that people in your life aren't going to always meet your deliverables? Who is going to plan for that? Who's going to plan for the fact that you won't be able to meet other people's deliverables? Who makes plans for heartbreak? Well, here we do that. So I want to take a lighter approach to this topic. Heartbreak, of course, is not all doom and gloom. Yes, it can be a little painful, but it could pose an unnecessary risk, I think, if you are not investing into creating a plan and a budget so that you show up appropriately. So let's relate. The first way that we are going to plan for heartbreak in the new year is we are going to get real. Ladies and gentlemen, please bring it in. I'm gonna give you a second. Come on, zoom in. Bring it in. If you're listening, please just give me your ear. It's time to get real. You have to have a reality check about some things. Just like joy is real, pain is real. They actually need each other. That's what they are. They are symbiotic opposites. Humans bring both of those things in the same pretty package. Have you ever met someone that was so great, and then all of a sudden, blindsided? Why are you blindsided? They are capable of both of those things. Not everything in life can be avoided, but we can definitely be better prepared for it when it comes. Some of us, unfortunately, and I have been here more times than I'd like to admit, have our heads in the clouds about people and the relationships that we have with them. And we have not come to fully accept that they are who they said they are, and they're going to show up how they said they would. Some of us just want so badly for people to be better for us versus better for them. We want them to be our ideals of them. And then we treat them like the ideal versus the reality that is moving and operating daily in front of us. Some of us are that person to others. And it's so funny. I had a man that I was seeing for some time tell me that he didn't feel that I had the same level of investment as him in curating a relationship together. And honestly, he was really consistent in this complaint. Okay, so there must have been some truth to it. But and yes, at the end, there really was truth because he entered into my life at a time where my effort was really budgeted more strongly for other areas. I'm saying this in the most covert way that I can. Not someone else. I want to be clear. It wasn't budgeted for someone else. But I just had my time and my attention allocated for something else when he came into my life. And that was my opportunity, which I didn't do, to say, hey, you know what? I don't actually think I could be what you need right now. It was interesting, though, looking back, because the man, he didn't lie to me, but for a period of time, he was lying to himself, to be honest. And this sounds so crazy to admit, of course, to you guys, but we're being real here, right? This imbalance of expectation versus reality and investment versus return on investment was not budgeted the same for both of us. And that is a reality that I want a lot of us to come to. Your relationships are like banks. You deposit and withdraw from them. And if one person is depositing and not receiving deposits in good measure, maybe it's not equivalent all the time because that's very tit for tat, but someone in that relationship is going to go in the negative. And here I am talking numbers again, but hear me. You have to get real about how and who you are budgeting with in this new year. Are they investing into the account? Are they optimistically investing without checking what's actually in the account? Or are they too much of a realist and holding investment until it equals out? Are they fearful and pessimistic and they won't even invest at all? What is their mindset about budgeting in your relationship, and are they actually doing it? This can save you from a lot of unnecessary risk of heartbreak in the new year and better prepare you for what is actually a necessary risk. Secondly, you must decide, are they worth your heartache? Now, this one is such a good one for me to remember, particularly because I score higher on the mercy showing and empathy scale. So it's very hard for me to not give people more allowances than they should probably have. And hear me when I say this, not everyone is worth your heart. Therefore, not everyone is worthy to be heartbroken over. I did not say people are not worthy. I said not everyone should be allowed to break your heart. When you give everyone a chance, Everyone has access to you. That is an unnecessary risk for heartbreak. Some of this, of course, is due to improper planning around someone's ability to receive love from you and in return invest it. Some of it's self-esteem, right? What you value. It could be frivolous spending of your time and improper attention to your values. Your values, and I have mentioned this so many times before, are a great debater of your time and your peace spent on a person. If it doesn't align, you must refine. You have to look at it again right away and make sure what you saw is what you saw and what they said is what they said. And then you move accordingly. Too many of us are befriending people on first and second meetings off of vibes and shared interests. That is an unnecessary risk. There is nothing wrong with having acquaintances that you share strongly with in certain areas and they not become your bestie in the next month. Vet people with your values to decide if they are worthy of crying over in the future. My pastor says there are Peters and there are Judases. One is a fool sometimes, and others will send you to the cross. Recognize the difference between the two. Allow me to emphasize that every heartbreaker doesn't need to be discarded, as people are not disposable. However, distance and withdraw from those who don't have insight or responsibility for your best interest should be separated from you. Also, those who can't agree, no matter how much you love that person, right? No matter how much you care for that person, should be put at a distance. How can two walk together, but they agree? It's a harsh reality when you have experienced this because there may be so much love and desire there for each other, but the contention between you outweighs everything that you're actually capable of. Take it from me, this is a terrible place to be. Distance yourself before you cause each other unnecessary heartache. Lastly, you need to guard your heart. Lisa THECHRIST wrote a devotional on how to guard your heart in relationships with people, which is a reference to one of my favorite verses and motto for this podcast, Proverbs 4:23, guard your heart for everything that you do flows from it. She says, interestingly, the Hebrew word for guard, mismar, communicates an active nature of how someone should guard, as Ludwig Kohler mentions in the Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament. What this means is that guarding is an active thing, not passive. We aren't trying to protect ourselves from love. If we love, we will risk being hurt. But we are trying to protect ourselves for love. We don't want to get so consumed with the pain and the chaos of unhealthy relationship patterns that we become a carrier of human hurt rather than a conduit of God's love. Oh, thank you, Lisa. I loved that. That is a summation of what we are doing here on this podcast. Guarding your heart is an act of protection from unnecessary heartbreak on the account of them and you. If we are actually called to love people, who we show up as matters. And if we aren't carriers of God's love gene or displaying godly love towards others, we are unnecessarily breaking their heart and vice versa. Do your relationship partners make it easy for you to be a conduit of God's love? Do they crush your attempts? Do they overstep their boundaries regularly? One way I find that does take a lot of time, but is helpful to become acquainted with how to be a better conduit of love is to get to know the nature of God intimately. Get to know him. And if you aren't a believer, if you don't believe in him, still get to know the word through the Bible because it will teach you some very basic but amazing principles to thrive in your life and your relationships. There are scriptures written to help us become more masterful at budgeting our affections for others. Guarding your heart is a budgeting act. It's a purposeful examination of yourself and others to determine, is God's love actually flowing through you into that relationship? Ideally, you should be able to do that. But sometimes our investments don't align. Sometimes our ideas don't align. And so we have no peace. And so how are you exercising guarding your heart in that relationship? Get used to looking for God's nature in every relationship. Are these people merciful or are they condemning? Are they full of grace or unforgiving? Are they consistent or wavering? Do you have to chase them to love them? Do they have to chase you to love you? It's time to get closer to God's nature so you know how people should treat you. If they don't see themselves as Imago Dei, image bearers of God, they won't treat you that way either. I want to give you guys some qualities to look for in a ready lover. And this obviously can pertain to not only romantic relationships, but friendships and other types of relationships that you build. The first one is consideration. Are they altruistic? Empathy. Do they care enough? Do they care enough to relate to you? Number 3, patience. Are they slow to anger? 4, kindness, especially in discord. Number 5, this is big for me. It may not be big for you, but eye contact. Connection is huge. Body language is huge and tells a story when a person can't look you in your eyes. That's the least that they could do. But for me, is one of the most important things. Number 6, healthy relationships, both friendships and familial. It's got to be one or the other, if not both. If both, better. Number 7, conscientiousness. This is a trait of responsibility and reliability and someone who is highly self-aware. Optimism is number 8. Please understand that this is a game changer to what's possible for your relationships. Having someone optimistic will take you as far as having someone who's faithful. Number 9, someone that's integral. Honesty, even in your absence. 10, personal awareness. It kind of sums up all of these. A person who won't do the work on themselves will not work for you. Please understand, most of these things can be worked on in your current relationships if the person is committed to doing the work. Obviously, if they're not, there's going to be some adjustments that you'll have to make. And that means that you will need to also do the work. A reminder and part of a quoted verse that I think we rarely discuss is love never ends. And this comes after we hear all of what love is and is not. It says, love never ends. That's 1 Corinthians 13:8. I urge you to line up with this list. Line it up against yourself. Are you exhibiting any of these qualities? My budget is my budget, of course. This list I created for myself, but I wanted to share it with you guys. And so you can make your own. But I wanted to give you a few things that you can think about as you prepare for heartbreak in this new year. At the end of each episode, I always speak to you about loving yourself first so you can then go and love your neighbor. And if you aren't examining yourself, you first, you are not prepared. It's not too late to get prepared though. Thank you guys so much for loving yourself first so you can then go and love your neighbor. Until next time.
Why don't you stay a little longer? You like what you like, right? Subscribe to the channel so we can spend a little more time together. And maybe comment your thoughts because I care what you're thinking. Love is the risk and the reward.